Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Catch Me Off-Road channel back at it again. It's a breezy, kind of chilly morning here in December in Michigan. The last video I think I posted was probably either some off-roading or maybe mud flaps. I can't remember. But today's video is going to be kind of cool. We actually have a new part that came in that I've been waiting for since August or so, maybe July even. And that is the ADD Pro bolt-on front bumper. And I have some Baja Designs lights to go with it. So in a few minutes, without further ado, I'm gonna head into work, into the shop to go ahead and install that, or try to get it installed. We actually ordered, myself and 5 other individuals in our off-road group, Midwest Off-Road Expeditions, all ordered our bumpers at the same time. It's part of like a group buy. We got free shipping that way from ADD since it came to an address, a commercial address with a forklift. So we all ordered them at the same time. And we've just been waiting, and finally they're here. They just showed up out of the blue a couple days ago. Most of the guys have already come and grabbed theirs. I already sent them on their way with their bumpers. Just myself and my buddy Fitz, who's coming out of Toledo, Ohio. He's actually driving up right now as we speak, and he's going to meet me at the shop, and I'm going to go in there and try to install mine today. He's going to take his and go back to his own garage, and him and his dad, I think, are working on it today. So hopefully we'll see some videos or footage at our next event of all the ADD bumpers. But I'll go ahead and give you guys a cold start without taking too long. Yes, I realize I need to rake up my lawn and mow probably, but truck stuff is way more important than house stuff, right? I got my priorities straight. All right, guys, stay tuned. We just made it to the shop, and I'm getting ready to pull the truck in. Just wanted to give you guys a look at what it looks like before. You know, stock bumper. Still looks decent, not bad. Just not the look I'm going for. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the truck inside, and we'll get cracking on this thing. So I got the truck pulled in, and these are the 2 remaining bumpers. Like I said, there were 6 of us that ordered them at the same time. Everyone has picked theirs up, except for myself, which is that top one, and the bottom one is my buddy Fitz, who also has a red TRX. He's suburban_TRX on Instagram. Super cool guy. So he's driving out from Toledo, like I said, to pick this guy up, him and his dad. I've been working, I'm out of breath right now. You can probably hear me because I've been prying on this top pallet. Man, these guys really packaged the boxes very well, but it's a huge pain to get them apart. So what they did is they put, this is ADD off-road, by the way. They put a pallet under each of the boxes. So there were 3 pallets because there were 3 stacks. So it was stacked 3 high right here. And then they nailed these boards vertically, holding the pallets up so they're not, the weight is not on the box under it, because these are just cardboard boxes. You know, they dent and scratch real easily. So all the weight's being supported by these 6, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 on the other side, vertical boards. And they use nails instead of screws, which sucks because some of them were hammered in really close where you can't even fit a pry bar in there like this. It's really hard to do. So I'm kind of just hacking away at it and trying to get it loose. Then they also use these, I can't remember what these are called. They're basically massive zip tie type deals. A tie wrap, something. I can't remember what they're called. You guys will let me know in the comments, so I'm sure. They use these around them and around the whole pallet, so the box is mounted to the pallet. And then, so that was 2 things. And the third thing they did was they also stapled the boxes to the pallet. So this top one, for example, has been removed, but you can see right there's a staple. They literally stapled the boxes to the pallet so they don't slide around right and left. That kind of keeps them in place. And they were packaged amazingly. I opened one up the other day when one of the guys was picking theirs up, and I'll show you in a second what it looks like, but it's all nice and foamed in there and mounted very nicely. So they do a great job. It's just a huge pain to get them apart. So I'm going to keep working at this, try to get it apart before I waste too much time, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okie dokie, with nothing other than my raw strength, I was able to remove the wood pieces and lift this guy down to the ground. It's actually super light. Maybe it weighs like less than 100 pounds. So I just kind of twisted it and set it down. But let's look inside this guy. This is the first time I'm opening mine. Looks like there's still some staples held on here. That worked. But yeah, like I said, you can see how nicely they have it foamed. They have other piece of foam on top. Feels like there's like some kind of padding in here, like bubble wrap or something. And then all the hardware is sitting right there and it's kind of glued in place with the foam. So shout out to ADD Off-Road for packaging these so nicely. Yeah, this is a big cardboard box. That's why it's so light. We were really just lifting the weight of the bumper. And then the skid is kind of taking the pressure off of the different ones that are stacked. So anyway, let's get this guy over there. I went ahead and removed the front tires and I'm getting ready to take off the skid plate, which is all mashed up as you can see. So my buddy Fitz here just showed up. I told you he was coming up. We've loaded up his bumper into the back of his beautiful red TRX. Fitz, what all have you done to the truck?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It's pretty stock. Oh, check this out. He's got a cool... Who recognizes these? If you play Forza, you'll know what those are. But otherwise, he's got a pretty stock truck. This will be hopefully his first big mod, and he's got some lights. All sorts of Baja Designs lights to go in it. So stay tuned for an update on that. So here's the current status of the truck. We just went out and grabbed lunch and I just got back and I've made some progress. So the whole bumper you can see is off. This is a super cool design actually, how the bumper comes off, and I'll explain that in a second. But essentially you take off the skid plate and then you take off there's some shields back here that you can take off to get access to this wiring harness right here. Sorry, I was interrupted, but you disconnect one wiring harness right here, and that provides the power for and signals for all of the accessories on the bumper, including parking sensors, fog lights, etc. So that's really cool. I really like that feature. You pop that out. It's 3 bolts. Take the bumper off on each side, and then the oil cooler also, you have to take it out. You just remove 3 bolts, which are right in here. There's 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, mine's covered in mud, as you know. So you take those 3 bolts out on each side. The oil cooler hangs down. You kind of zip tie it. You remove the bumper bolts, the big bumper bolts. The whole bumper comes off. Then you reattach these 3 bolts, which I just did. Super easy to do. It probably took 10 minutes to do the whole thing. And this is really cool. I'm really impressed by this. That's the wire right there. And you can see the harness is laying out inside there, and it goes all along the front, and that has all the sensors on it and everything else, lights, whatever else you need. So good job, props to the Ram guys for designing that. This is what the truck looks like right now. So the next step according to the instructions is to, and this is for aesthetics only, they say it's optional, but is to cut off these tabs, this one right here, which holds the inner fender liner, the bottom part. There's a piece that sits right in here on the end of the bumper. That's the fog light right there. There's a piece that sits right in here, little triangle piece. I have them taken off, but that's where they mount. But since we're not installing those, these can go bye-bye. So they say to cut it right here. And then this piece right here that hangs down, this part helps mount the old skid plate, the factory skid plate. And it says to cut those right about here at the cutoff wheel. These I have some spares for, so I'm not worried at all. It's a part that bolts on. But these tabs, since they're welded on, if I cut these, I'll have to weld another one on if I want to go back to stock. But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, and then I'll worry about it at a later point if I ever want to go back to the stock bumper. So I'm going to cut those off with the cutoff wheel. So I went ahead and you saw me cut these off, and I just now spray painted them as well with some black spray paint. You can see it's kind of shiny there. Fresh coat of paint on that one and on this one. I grinded them down to deburr them. They look pretty good. I'll show you the other side too. There's the back tab. There's the front tab right there. So they look pretty good. Also touched up some of this frame up here, wiped everything down a little bit. It's still gross and disgusting, but a little better. And now I've been working on the bumper. There's a bunch of steps to take the fog lights out, unclip this whole wiring harness. There's a huge wiring harness in here with all the sensors. So I'm working on that right now. and I'll update when I've got that out of there. Guys, so I just got done removing all the parking sensors, which look like this, and I labeled them because you're supposed to mark their orientation, so I labeled them right side up, so you know which way they go in. I removed all the bezels, which are these little guys right here. You see 2 of them there. There's actually 4 total. 2 of them are also in these 2 sensors in the middle. And then I went ahead and pulled the whole wiring harness, which wasn't bad. I used this nice trim tool right here to get behind all of the little all these little clips. You can see it ruined some of them, but they'll still work fine. And you just make your way down and pop them all out as you go, and this whole wire is now loose. On the ends, I still have the, you'll see on this end and on the other end, still have the marker lights, the wide body marker lights. Everything else is removed from the bumper, so now I'm going to go ahead and open the new bumper. I put this cardboard down so I don't scratch anything up. I'm going to go ahead and open that up and get working on installing all this stuff on it. Before we do that though, we're going to take a quick break and pop open a cold ski. Hit me up in the comments if you guys have ever heard of ski. I'm not going to say anything about it. If you've heard of it or seen it, let me know where you're from, where you've seen it at. And it's soda, it's not beer, don't worry, I'm not drinking on the job. I just took the ADD bumper out. That's what it looks like. Like I said, they did a great job wrapping it. I'm out of breath because it's so heavy I had to carry it over here, but looks good. I'm happy with it. You can see these are the spots where the sensors are going to go. There should be 6 of them total, 4 in the middle, and then 1 on each side of the edge, and there's the marker lights. So now is the part where we transfer everything over to this guy. So I'm going to start working on that. There's the old bumper for comparison. This thing actually feels like it weighs more than the old bumper, but I assume it's stronger too. Just being all plate steel and tubes. Nice skid plate. The skid plate has more of a satin finish. It's not quite gloss, not quite matte. It's like a satin finish, like you can see, which is different than the rest. Everything else is more of a hammered finish, I think they call it. So that's the new bumper, ADD Pro bolt-on for the TRX. This one has with sensors, like I said, and we also have another box in the back of my truck, which is called a light hoop, and it goes, this is upside down right now, but it'll allow you to mount 4 6-inch lights on it, 6-inch round or square lights, which I'm using LP6s. You'll see them soon. All right, we are 7 hours into the install, or at least it feels like it. It actually might be. I've got the sensors all transferred over. Here's one issue I've been having that's been taking about an hour and a half to figure out, and I still haven't figured it out, is these parking sensors, the outer ones. Okay, so all of the inner parking sensors, there's 6 total. So 4 in the center and then 2 on the outer edges. And the center ones all have a bezel surrounding them. All the sensors have a bezel surrounding them, but the center 4 all get removed from your old bumper. The bezels come out and they go in the new one. But the outer ones, as you can see, in the old bumper, they stay in place right there. That's them. The sensor just clicks in here. And this is all like plastic welded in, so you don't remove that. So ADD provides you with these 3D printed looking ones or something. I don't know what they're made of. They're not 3D printed, but they're little cheap chintzy ones, and they're 2-part adapters or whatever. And the front part is supposed to go in from the outside, which is the little bezel, and then the back is supposed to snap in kind of like it is right now. You're supposed to go click and it snaps into place, and then you put your sensor in. Well, all of these, since they have you can see this bezel is tapered. It's got a thin side and a thick side. According to the instructions, you want to put the thin side up, since the bumper has a little bit of angle to it, and that'll align the parking sensors where they're flush instead of being angled down or angled up. So with the thin side up, and then you'll notice on the sensors they have a connector, and the orientation of this matters. So if you put this in upside down where the connector is on this side, you will get a light on your dash saying the parking sensor is not activated or something. It's happened to my buddy Aaron, who is doing the exact same. He's doing the Stealth Fighter, but he went through this a couple days ago. Same issue. And so if you orient it this way, where the sensor connector is on the right side, like it is here, obviously on the other side of the vehicle, the connector is facing the left. I don't know if you can see that on your little green connector right there. But anyway, if you orient it the right way, and you also orient the thin side up like they say in the instructions, these do not click together. There's like no clearance. It does this basically, where there's no clearance right there. for the thickness of the steel on the bumper. And so these all seem to be designed for the right side only. The right side works fine, but if you would have to do a, you know, reflection basically about the y-axis, if you understand what I'm saying, to make the left side work, and they didn't. They're all printed the same. They're all I don't know how they're made, but all 4 of these are the same. They give you 4, you only use 2 of them. So I was about to use some epoxy and glue that into place, but I figured I'd send ADD a message and let them know that I'm having this issue, and a couple other guys are having this issue too, and see if they can address it or send us some better clips. Even the one on that side honestly did not click in very well. It works, but it's kind of loose and it flops around. So I've been trying to figure out what to do about that, but for now I'm going to leave it. The other concerns I have are, number one, we lost the fog lights with this bumper. So we have this fog light connector right here, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to either tape it up or find a connector that just so happens to work to cap it so it doesn't do any damage or corrode the terminals. The other issue is, as you can see, the wiring harness is just kind of flopped in there. Where the heck do I put this wiring harness? So I'm not sure about that. I've never had an aftermarket bumper on my vehicles before. I'm assuming I'm just going to end up doing this and zip tying it on the back side of the bumper where it doesn't show. It is a little tight in some spots, like right here. This is stretched kind of tight if I plug in everything. And then there's a sensor all the way down there, and then we have this huge connector which we use to connect to the vehicle harness. That's the one that we disconnected at the beginning, the first step. So that guy's got to get plugged in somehow, and I don't know if I should route it through here because the frame horns sit right there. So let's move on to that next step. So the frame horns now, which are these big boys right here, and they're called frame horns because that's the frame, and these are horns that stick out the front of it that just hold the bumper on. That's their only purpose. They have 3 mounting holes, 1, 2, 3 in these corners, and they ask you to drill out this lower one to a 1/2 inch, which honestly, it was super close to 1/2 inch already. It was maybe, you know, just a hair too small. So when you drill it out, you make a little more room for the bigger bolts they supply, and there's very, very small difference. So I did that. It just took 2 seconds. I just literally ran the drill in there a couple times, and it wallowed it out enough. But so we have this frame horn here that's going to be sitting right here, plugging this whole area, but there still might be a little section in this area that maybe the plug can go through. If it can, you see, that's as far as I can pull it also. It's just taut up here. And if I try running it through the bottom, we're going to have issues with getting the sensor plugged in, I think, but I'm not sure. I'll figure something out. And I see now that there's an opening right here, so I might have to figure out how to get into this inside chamber, maybe from the bottom because it's closed on this side. So yeah, that's what I'm working with. I'm about to have my buddy Alex help me lift the bumper. It's kind of heavy. It feels almost heavier than the OEM one. Lift this up and set it up there, and then we'll try to mount the all the bolts in it. And this is the point where you're supposed to add your light bars, but my light bar is not in yet. The light bar mounts into here, these 4 bolts on each side, and they give you a whole box of adapters for different light bars with bolts. So we're gonna save that for another day, even if it means removing the bumper again and to put those on. And then the light hoop goes over the top right there like that, and it's a bolt-on part, so I'm gonna try to do that later. So yeah, for now let's try to get the bumper on and we'll figure out the next step. So I'm at the point where I'm about to snug everything down. The bolts are all in, so this is what I was talking about. These bolts right here, the big black bolts on the outer edge, there's 2 bolts on the outside, one goes on the inside behind this. The one that goes behind here is smaller. These 2, you have to use bolts and nuts, and they give you the right amount. They just tell you to only use these on the bottom and use a different size on the top one, but they don't give you enough of those. So I use this on both, and you have to use a drill bit, 1/2 inch, to just barely waller out these, you know, make them a little bit big enough to fit these in. And then, all right, so the bumper's on. The ADD instructions don't show you how to route your wires. So what I ended up doing was, this is the harness that's mounted to the body. What I did was I clipped it where it goes over the frame horn, so the wire harness comes in over the frame horn. You can see this is a little bit taut. I'm going to try to zip tie it here. This goes to the outer sensors, which this one is the one I'm having trouble with. It's just kind of dangling there. The light is in really well. They did a good job with that. And then it goes over here, over the hump, and part of it goes into this little box. It's just like an enclosed, you know, little box area. It's enclosed on all edges except the back side, so you have to plug in the sensor. And in order to reach that, you actually have to remove the tow hook to stick your hand up in there to even be able to reach the sensor, because as you can see, there's nowhere to put your hand in. You can't fit it through, even with the bumper off. It's really tight. And then I zip tied up all of the wires in here. You can see my zip ties sticking through. I just have them zip tied up here, and I'm going to snip them and tighten everything up when I'm done with everything. There's the sensors, and all my bolts are in, but they're loose. They're just kind of sitting in there, like I can still turn them by hand. Same on this side, kind of zip tied everything out of the way. I didn't have connectors to put in the fog lights. I looked for some, I couldn't find any, so I just taped them up. This is not a great way to do things, but I'm thinking about also eventually when I wire up my lights, I might cut this wire and use these wires to use my fog light switch to turn on some of the lights. We'll see. My buddy Aaron just did that with his. He had fog lights, Baja Designs fog lights that he put in, and he wired them up to those. So we'll see if I ever get around to that. And so once I have, my buddy is going to come over here, Alex, and he's going to help me lift this and tighten it up so they're not bottomed out right here. Try to get it closer to the body. So we're going to do that next, and then I'm going to go ahead and secure all the zip tie stuff. And then, oh, my bottom tabs down here, these are where the factory skid plate mounted, and I've hit it so many times that it's bent them up, and so you can see the angle is completely different. See, this one looks like it's angled up, and this one's angled down. This was way worse, and I've bent it down with a huge, I used a big adjustable wrench, and I basically put the wrench on there like that, and then pried down on it to bend the tabs down, and they bend down a little bit, which is kind of scary because this is the same thing that mounts the lower control arms. So you get a big impact here. You could throw off your alignment, which may be why mine is off so bad. But this is gusseted pretty well, so I hope it's thick enough and strong enough to not have that issue. Sorry I'm blabbering, but yeah, so that's the situation right there. I'm just going to eventually, once the front bolts are all on, I'm just going to crank this as hard as I can with an impact and try to pull this together, and it'll hopefully bend it down a little bit. Otherwise, one thing I just noticed was, if you see where the oil drain right there is, that comes out of the engine. There's the oil filter, and when you pull the filter out, all the oil drains into there, drips into there and down, and it's going to go right into the skid plate. So for oil changes, I'm going to have to remove the skid plate, it looks like, which is a ton of bolts. They go all the way around the outer edge. So that's just one thing I noticed. You can see right there, covered in mud. There's decent clearance between the oil cooler and the skid plate, so I'm not terribly worried about that. I haven't tightened it down yet, but even with it tightened down, I think we should be good there. I was worried that if you hit something off-road, it would hit the oil cooler and break it, but I think there's about an inch or two of clearance, which is good. Otherwise, yeah, that's about it. Wrapping up the install of the bumper itself. It's been a long day and a lot of work for this thing. I was expecting it to be a lot easier, take a couple hours, but it's not easy, especially working by myself here. But once I have this buttoned up, then tomorrow I'll probably come in and start working on the lights, because that's a whole different can of worms. So, all right, stay tuned. Fast forward about 2 hours, and I'm still working on this. So one of my buddies texted me. We've got 4 of us working on this in the exact same time on our own trucks, all in different areas. So my buddy Justin texted and said, hey, how did your light hoop go? And I said, well, I actually didn't put it on yet because I was planning on doing it later. Should I do it now? And he said, yeah, the bolts are going to be hard to get to once the bumper's all the way on. So I went ahead and pulled it out of the box, and whoever foamed the box up had a heyday. They really made it hard for me to get this out. But anyway, what they did was, this right here is a light hoop. You can see it's already on because I've been working on it for the last half hour, so it wasn't terrible. I removed the tow hooks once again. That allows you to access, so this is how they mount. The light hoop only uses 4 bolts on each side, which is good. And it has this little silicone piece or whatever to prevent rubbing between the metal and metal. So Justin's bolts were not lining up, so he told me to go ahead and check mine, and I checked mine. They actually line up pretty well, so I didn't have that issue. He had to drill new holes, and all 4 of his holes on the bumper were way further back towards the back of the vehicle. So I ended up removing the tow hook once again, and then you can stick your arm in through here, through the bottom side, and you can access the back side of these, so you can put the nuts and washers on. And then I just used an Allen head to secure all these, and I can't remember what size it is. But I just got done doing both sides, and now I also used my brain and I got these little lift things, and I actually use that to hold the bumper up, and I can now tweak it, raise and lower the right and left side and try to align this. So I've already aligned it here pretty well, where I have about 1/4 to 1/2 inch gap all the way across the truck. And then once I'm done, where I like it, I'm going to go ahead and secure all the bolts, and then we should be done with the bumper install. And here's the final result. I got everything snugged up, put my tow hooks back in, and then went ahead and put the tires back on. It's sitting a little high right now because I just lowered it and torqued everything. Once I start moving a little, it'll compress the front. But yeah, that's the new bumper. Oh, the first thing I noticed is the tow hooks stick out a ton. So one of the guys in our group, I sent him a picture, Casey. He's gonna try to work on making smaller ones, or even like a shackle type setup. You know, a little point for a shackle to go through. So yeah, that's the final product. It's like a 10-hour install or something crazy. I mean, I took a couple breaks and then, you know, had some issues and stuff so to work through. So it did take a while. It was a huge pain, but I'm happy with how it looks. I got it lined up pretty well. You can see it's a very small gap on each side. Looks pretty smooth. I'm going to go ahead now and just mount up the lights, even though I should do it tomorrow, but it's still only like 9 o'clock at night, so I have a couple hours. So I'm going to try to put the LPs in here and bolt them in just to see what they look like. I won't wire them up. I'll work on wiring in the next video. But that's how it looks right now. I'll take some more videos once I get it outside. These are the Baja Design LP6s. I just opened the box, dumped the screws out right there. It just comes with a light and a mount and some instructions and a little connector to wire everything up. And then it comes with a wiring harness. When you order a couple of them, I ordered the wiring harness. So I got 2 white ones and 2 amber ones. The whites, like this one is a clear one, which is white. You'll see it has some LEDs on the sides as well. Those are amber backlighting. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to wire those up to the backlighting on my M&R Automotive lights up there. So anytime I hit my amber switch, all of the amber backlights come on and it'll look really cool. I think I'm going to go ambers in the middle and whites on the outside. So it'll go white, amber, amber, white. I don't know. I can always switch it up. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments before I wire it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally done. It is like midnight now. You ready for the final reveal? Here we go. What do you guys think? So obviously the front LPs are not wired up yet. I just have them bolted on, like I said. They're pretty sturdy. That's what they look like. I'm letting the engine warm up a little bit before I drive, but yeah, that's what it looks like. Much better approach angle if you look at it from the side view. Huge difference. The factory bumper kind of dropped down to below the tow hooks and then went in. So we got all this extra room cleared up right here. And then, like I said, if I put smaller tow hooks on, it should help a lot. It also clears up the look on the front. If you look at it, you can actually see the suspension now. You can see the shock, you can see the lower control arm, tie rod, everything else. Which that all used to be blocked until about here by the factory bumper. It kind of curved down like this. So I'm super excited about it. I think it looks awesome. The truck looks a little goofy with the front bolt-on bumper and the rear stock. So you know what that means. So we got to get something going on back there too. Some kind of dovetail or something like they do on the Raptors. But yeah, there's the final product. Tomorrow I'll be filming a video. It should be the next one you guys see, is wiring up the lights. Let me know in the comments if you guys like this setup or if I should swap backwards to yellows on the outside and whites on the inside. I can always do that at a later time. It's easy to swap them. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me to the end, and hope this was useful to you for anyone who's buying an ADD bumper like this on the TRX, or if you just want to take apart your factory bumper. That's what it kind of the way it goes on and off. That's what it looks like from the inside. So all right, guys, hit me up in the comments if you have any questions or anything. Don't subscribe. You know the deal. Catch you guys on the next one.